Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to give people a few minutes to tune in and then we will get started. So I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend and is having a good start to their week so far, no matter where you're tuning in from. And thank you so much for joining us, at least for us, on this Monday evening tonight. So I think we'll wait another minute or so just while people are starting to join the webinar. And then, as I mentioned, we will get started. Welcome to everyone who has just joined the webinar. We're just giving people a couple minutes to join. And then we will get to talking a little bit more about the Tufts Civic Semester. Alrighty, it looks like it has slowed down in people filing in. So I'm going to introduce myself really quickly and then I will hand it off to my colleagues from Tisch College. So my name is Meredith Leon and I am an assistant director of undergraduate admissions here at Tufts University. And very, very excited to be hosting some of our friends from our Tisch College of Civic Life who are going to share with you a little bit more about our Tufts Civic Semester. So Jessye, if you would like to take it away, introducing you and your team, that would be great.
Thanks, Meredith. Hi, everyone. My name's Jessye Crowe-Rothstein. I use she, her pronouns. I am the senior program manager at Tisch College of Civic Life, which if people have questions about Tisch, we can definitely answer those later as well. But one of my roles at Tisch is supporting the Tufts Civic Semester, which I have been working with since it began in 2019. So it's so exciting, our current semester is in the field at the moment, but we're already thinking about next year. So this is our first kind of admissions event for fall 25. So we're really excited to be here and appreciate everyone tuning in. I do have some slides to kind of go over the program and give you some basic info. But before we do that, I want to quickly let our alumni who are here introduce themselves. Our plan is to after introductions, go through the program information quickly, and then let our alumni share a little about their experiences and then answer your questions. So Nika, do you want to go first?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Nika. I'm in my second year at Tufts University. So I did the civic semester last year, actually. I can't believe it's been a year. I'm from the Republic of Moldova, so I'm an international student, one of the very few in my cohort within the civic semester. But yeah, I think I have so much to talk about when it comes to the civic semester, and I'm very excited to share more about it. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So please feel free to ask any questions at the end. And yeah.
Thanks, Nika. Emma, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Emma. I was also in the cohort last year with Nika, so I'm in my second year at Tufts. I'm from Massachusetts, Medford, so very close. I'm studying community health and biopsychology, which is very interesting. And I would love to hear all of your questions, and so I'm really excited to talk with you guys.
Thank you both so much. All right, bear with me. I'm going to screen share. And the best part, even though slides are kind of sometimes the worst, but we have a lot of nice photos. So hopefully it's worth it. Okay, so we're going to get started. So to begin, I just kind of want to talk about what are some of the things that make civic semester unique and what it is. And we really think of this program as an opportunity for an experiential kind of applied education. So we consider our community partners to be co-educators in this process. And we really want our students to have an opportunity to connect their academic coursework with their on-site experiences. We have a strong emphasis on reflection and really building connections and making meaning of your experience throughout as well. Obviously, the cohort is a huge part of this experience. We see students connecting with other Tufts peers in a really kind of amazing, beautiful, deep way. And we see the way that students support each other and grow really close throughout this experience and beyond, with some of our civic semester students, like living with other civic semesters their whole time at Tufts and really maintaining those friendships for life. We want this to be a deep cultural immersion as well. So students gain foreign language skills through practicing in their daily lives. They live with and learn about a different cultural perspective. And compared to kind of a more traditional study abroad program, this experience really focuses on that immersion piece and really becoming a part of a community. We want this also to be an opportunity to really challenge yourself and step out of your comfort zone. So we focus a lot on learning from the people doing really incredible work in their communities. And we want students to have the opportunity to really learn about themselves, their own skills and interests within social change work, and how they want to make a difference moving forward. And last but not least, we really have this focus on kind of connecting to the natural world. So both programs take place in really beautiful, incredible parts of the world. And they have opportunities to be immersed in and really appreciate nature. No outdoor experience necessary. So a lot of our students, this is like their first time hiking, but you do get the opportunity to do that. And I think it builds just a kind of stronger sense of kind of connection to nature, which can be really impactful for students as well. So I'm going to quickly go through our 2 locations. I'm going to start with Peru. We have been in Peru since 2019, since the program started in the same location of Urubamba, which is located in the Sacred Valley. It's at almost 10,000 feet, about an hour and a half from Cusco, which you might have heard of. So it's a really incredible place. I'm sure Emma and Nika can tell you lots more about it. The Peru program is definitely an exciting opportunity to really hone Spanish language skills. We get a lot of students who are really excited about that piece. And you do get to live in this really kind of like beautiful town that has a lot of stuff and resources, but also you're surrounded by a more rural area. So you also get that opportunity to visit the like highland indigenous communities that Peru is kind of known for. And so each program is structured around some specific themes, and the organizations that we work with fall largely within these. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of the types of organizations that students have worked with in Peru. So we have education area. So an example of that is an organization offering physical therapy and community education campaigns to support those with disabilities. We have the community health area. We've worked with a nonprofit dedicated to improving public health in remote highland communities, using a model of hiring local women as public health advocates within their own communities. We have an arts and culture area. An example of that is a women-led cooperative dedicated to traditional weaving techniques as a way to preserve Indigenous culture. And then finally, we have an environment and agriculture area, an example of which is a group of female farmers who support communities in adopting sustainable organic farming practices. So we have a lot of really wonderful connections with different types of organizations, and I'll go into a little more how students work with them right after I talk about our newest location in Thailand. So we are based in Chiang Mai, which is a city in the north. It's an incredible place. It's known for having like an amazing number of temples within the city. And then you're really also surrounded by this really beautiful green kind of like hilly countryside. We have our very first Thailand cohort in country right now. And so it's been really incredible to be hearing from them, seeing their photos, just seeing this program really come to life after so much planning. So we're really excited about continuing with Chiang Mai moving forward. So again, we have a number of community partners that we're working with in Thailand. Some examples of organizations students have worked with within the Indigenous rights space. We have an organization devoted to promoting and defending Indigenous people's rights that includes 46 member organizations across the region. Environmental conservation, we're working with a group that's developed a sustainable low labor composting technique. And they use it to train farmers as an alternative to crop burning, which has had really serious kind of important environmental air quality impacts on the region. And then finally, in the sustainable development area, an example is a social enterprise that's promoting organic agriculture and fair trade. And one of the really cool things they do is they're collecting, testing, producing organic seeds that are suitable for like the local climate and resistance to pests and disease. So though we are in very different parts of the world, the program is really structured consistently throughout. So even though our students are so far away, it's really neat to see them kind of connecting across locations and having somewhat similar experiences in some ways. So I'm just going to talk about kind of like what the program looks like regardless of where you are based. So Civic Semester is a full academic semester. That means you're taking the same amount of credits that students on campus are taking. And we divide our academics so that students begin their courses the summer before they depart. And this not only offers you kind of knowledge and skills to use during your semester, but also divides up your coursework. So you have more time while you're in country for your placement and other types of community engagement that you want to do. So that means every student is taking kind of like the bulk of 2 courses during the summer before departure, and then 3 during the traditional fall semester dates. So you can see the classes listed here. We have 2 civic studies courses that are consistent throughout the program, regardless of where you are. So that's a civic semester pathways course in the summer, community change and action during the fall. And then outside of those 2 courses, the courses will depend on your location. So in Peru, that looks like a Spanish class over the summer to get you ready for the language, Latin American civilization, which focuses on history and culture of the region during the fall, and then an in-person Spanish class over the fall as well. In Thailand, we have globalization and social change over the summer, intro to the history of Southeast Asia in the fall, and then a Thai language course also while you're there. So courses are taught in a variety of formats. Some are virtual, some are hybrid, some are in person. Obviously, we are very global in our scope. So sometimes we do have to kind of use Zoom to be able to connect across many locations, whether that's over the summer when students are all around the world before the program, or connecting with each other throughout the semester. So I mentioned that we begin in the summer. So program does begin in early July with a virtual orientation and then those 2 classes. You can expect during the summer to have classes about 3 days a week. The timing kind of varies depending on where students are. So we've worked each year to try to figure out a time zone that will work for everyone, which can be complicated because we do have often very global cohorts. And then we have the group come to campus in mid-August for a week orientation. They complete the summer courses during that time as well. You participate in a pre-orientation and Tufts new student orientation before departing for civic semester. So it's a really fun couple of weeks at the end of the summer. And it's really amazing to see students leaving like already super bonded as a cohort, and also, you know, feeling connected to our campus, which is one of our goals with bringing folks here before departure. So then once you get to country, we have tried to build this program to be kind of like a scaffolded independence. So we give students a lot of group time and kind of support in the beginning, and then more opportunities for immersion and independent activities as the program moves on. So in terms of working with community organizations, throughout the program, about 2 days a week are spent learning from and working with organizations. The program begins with 3 weeks of visiting organizations as a group. So that means you're getting to see a number of different places, talk to them, learning about their work. And then after a month, this shifts to a placement. So once you have a placement, you're either in a pair or on your own, working with one organization for 2 days a week for the remaining 2 months of the program. So that's been a really impactful experience for a lot of students. You also will be doing a project that supports the placement as part of one of your courses. So we really want that placement experience to be a big piece of that immersion, but also learning from, locals on the ground who are doing really incredible work. And then we also aim to increase your opportunities for immersion and learning through our living structure. So you spend the first half of the group of the program living as a group in a shared home alongside the program staff as well. And then halfway through, each student moves to their own host family. And so host family living is something that I think many students are the most nervous about. But I'll also say that for many, it ends up being one of their favorite parts of the program. So I know that's something we get a lot of questions about, but I think having that opportunity to really get to know a local family is really impactful. And then even when you're living in a host family, you still get to see your peers very often. So I want to emphasize that this is not an individual kind of experience. You still will be a part of your group and get to see peers, whether it's through classes or socially. Throughout the program, there are also excursions. So these are opportunities to travel as a group and kind of see different areas of Peru or Thailand. So students just completed their first excursion of the program this past weekend. So that's really exciting. In Peru, we've had excursions to Machu Picchu, as you can see in the photo. This past weekend, students just went to this place called Paru, which is like a rural mountain village where students learned about indigenous farming techniques. They also have been to the Amazon rainforest. In Thailand this past weekend, they just visited a small artisan community where they learned about bamboo weaving and cloth dyeing techniques. It looked really cool. And other visits are looking like they may include a sustainability learning center, as well as a mountain meditation retreat. So excursions are really fun opportunities to be with your group and also get to kind of see different areas from where you're living. So I've talked a lot about all these different components, but I just want to give you a visual of what that calendar looks like. So before you depart, we have we start in virtual mode with our orientation early July, and then starting those courses online. And then you come to campus in person, you do orientation in person, finish your summer classes, pre-O, new student orientation, and then you depart very beginning of September, usually late August. And you're there for 3 months before returning home. So you start a little before the traditional semester and end a tiny bit early as well. Students do not come back to campus until the start of spring semester in January. I want to quickly mention our partner in country, which is Where There Be Dragons. So Dragons has been around since 1993 and has supported tens of thousands of students having immersive travel experiences in over 20 countries. Their on-site staff provide, exceptional support for kind of all aspects of the program. Like I mentioned earlier, they live with the group for the first half, and then they're always available for support, visiting you at homestay, at placement, leading group activities. They take you to the doctor for any medical needs. So I just want to kind of emphasize that Dragons instructors are critical for support, but also really from a health and safety perspective. There's a lot of work and oversight that goes into kind of making this experience a safe one and really supporting students throughout every aspect of the program. And though the semester ends at the end of the fall, we really see this as the start of your Tufts education and want to continue to support you throughout your time. So when you come back to campus in January, we have a weekend where we bring the cohort back together and we try to really support that transition back to campus with opportunities to meet alumni, thinking about how you might translate your experience into your time at Tufts. We continue with monthly meetups throughout that spring to really continue to support the cohort throughout that transition. And beyond, there's lots of opportunities to connect with our alumni. So we have peer leaders who do a ton with the orientation in August and with that transition back. And we also have alumni mentors that we match students with. I think our alumni community is a really lovely, welcoming, supportive community. So it's a really nice kind of group to become a part of. And it's also a great intro to Tisch College and other Tisch activities. Many of our alumni become involved with other things at Tisch beyond Civic Semester as well. And it's really cool to see this program kind of continue to have an impact for a lot of students, whether it's on their kind of academic trajectory or extracurriculars they want to pursue, or just like peers and social life. We really see that ongoing impact far beyond just that fall. So last but not least, so you can apply to the program after you are accepted to Tufts, and the application is within your applicant portal. We have deadlines based on each round of admission. So we encourage folks to apply early, but if, for example, you were admitted ED1 and you didn't apply by January 22nd, you could apply by February 26th or May 7th as well. So we welcome any round, but we definitely encourage early applications. And finalists are interviewed by Zoom. I want to emphasize that all the costs are covered by tuition and fees, and your financial aid does apply. And while we unfortunately cannot accept engineers, BFA, or SMFA students, all other A&S students are eligible. And as Nika mentioned in the beginning, we welcome and are very proud to have international students in the program every year. So those are all the slides. I'm thrilled to take a break from talking, and I'm going to turn it over to Nika and Emma to talk a little about their experiences.
Thank you so much, Jessye. I feel like seeing those pictures definitely brought me back to Peru. I still cannot believe it's been a year since we've been back. This is both me and Emma's technically second semester in college on campus, which is quite fun and interesting. One thing that I want to say about the civic semester, I do think it's one of the most unique ways you can start your college experience. And I feel like I've talked to so many people at Tufts who have heard about this program, who are in my year, for example, or who are in the year before me, and they've all more or less like have heard of it, or they've looked at the program, but there was always something that stopped them from applying. And I remember when I was going through that, and it was definitely something, I decided not to apply at first, and then they extended the deadline. And I was like, this is a sign. And it genuinely was. But one of the main worries I feel like people have expressed was the fact that I'm going to miss out on this like first semester experience, like all of those friends group they're made in your first semester, or like the first couple of weeks, depending on how you socialize. And many of them forget that you go to pursue the civic semester and you come back with 13 people that you're bonded with for, I don't know what it has to happen for you not to be tied to them anymore, because it's, and like many of them, they don't realize that. And I was like, I've never thought of things that way, but it is so true, because I feel like as Jessye mentioned, one of the most important part of the program are the people, and I feel like that's just something that everyone should have in mind, especially now, since applications are opening soon.
Exactly. I agree with everything Nika said. She can't get rid of me. We can't get rid of each other. We're in it for life. But yeah, the bonds that you make when you're there within your cohort, but then also within the community, it's amazing that like I'm still in contact with my Spanish teacher in Peru and my host family, and it feels like I have a home away from home and a connection that I never would have had, obviously, without this program. And being back on campus, you might have the worry that you feel kind of like an outsider and you're not as used to things. And that's somewhat true. People have been here a little bit longer, but you have such an established base, and Jessye is always there, Tisch College, your cohort, they're always there. And everyone on campus is still super open and willing to make connections with you. So it's definitely something that I recommend completely.
Thank you both. So I see some questions. We'll start going through them, and please feel free to add more. So one question I see is, regardless of your major, may anyone interested participate in civic semester? Yes, as long as you're in arts and sciences. And I think, when students begin at Tufts, they're really encouraged that first semester to be like trying out different things, getting used to college. So I know that it's a common worry that I hear of that you'll be behind by not having as many choices your first semester of courses. But this program has been approved by all the academic deans as like a good course load for first semester students. So yes, regardless of major, anyone in arts and sciences is eligible. Is the pre-orientation with students in the general Tufts population or with our civic semester cohort? So there's so many orientations. It's hard to keep them straight. So first we do a week with just civic semester. Then you do pre-O with your whole class. So you still get to fill out the pre-O survey and sign up for the pre-O that you want to do. And the whole point of that is to get to meet other incoming students. And then same with new student orientation. So yeah, we want you to have that week with the civic semester group, especially this year. It was really cool because, Thailand students and Peru students really got to know each other super well here on campus, which has been really meaningful, even though they're far apart. But then we also really want you to build connections with other first year students. So you have kind of both. Would it be possible for a student to go on civic semester and then transfer into the School of Engineering? Well, we've seen it done. I think if you're focused on being an engineer, the reason the engineers are not eligible is because they have very specific courses they're supposed to be taking from the beginning of their time at Tufts. So it's an academic reason as why we've been told that we can't have engineers, because we don't want anyone to we want everyone to be able to take the courses they need to take. However, yes, we have a student who did program last year who has transferred into the School of Engineering, and she's made that work. She did take some summer classes. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I do think, if you're primarily focused on engineering, it might not be the program for you. Here's a good one for you too. What were some of your core memories abroad?
I guess I can go first. First of all, thank you so much for all of the questions. I feel like I've definitely had those same questions on my mind when I was applying. And I'm really happy to be able to clear those out. I feel like maybe not the core memory, but something that I really loved about the program was like the language immersion. So I'm an international student from the Republic of Moldova. I come from a very different side of the world, and I've never been to the US before starting college, and I had never been to Latin America before, South America. And I don't know why, but I don't think I felt at home more in any place else than I did in Peru. And that was because there were certain cultural similarities, but it was also because of the people. The language immersion, this is something that I talk a lot about because speaking Spanish makes me so happy. I have no idea how it works, but it does something to me. And I had never taken Spanish before pursuing the civic semester, and I ended up skipping so many levels while I was there, because it's really, really like that language immersion really pushes you to get outside of your comfort zone. And if you want to take a language, and if you want to take Spanish, I feel like this is one of the best programs you can take, because I went from 0 to 23 in like 3 semesters, which is crazy, but it's definitely one of my favorite parts of the program.
Yes, I just agree with everything Nika says. A lot of the most impactful moments abroad in Peru were very small moments where I just kind of reflected. Like we would be on a hike, or we would be in Paru Paru on an excursion, and I'd just be like, this is a random Sunday, and I'm here in the most beautiful place ever. Or I'd just be walking to the market with my host mom and just like taking in all the different fruits and vegetables and just the noise of the market, and just feeling so lucky and appreciative. Or like at my internship, just seeing a kid take their first steps, or something just so big, but also like it's just a little moment in my life that meant so much more because of the situation I was in and because Peru and I bet Thailand is such a beautiful place to be. And I just felt so inspired, and it made me just realize a lot more about the world and myself.
That was beautiful. Thank you both.
Jessye, I just
Um,
wanted to quickly interrupt just
Yeah.
on the question of switching schools. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up from an admission standpoint that we do encourage everyone to apply to the school that you want to be in. And it's really something we encourage you to figure out prior to coming to Tufts, because while some students may have, been able to switch, we are kind of telling students that it is not always a guarantee that you can transfer into different schools, particularly when schools like the School of Engineering are much smaller than the School of Arts and Sciences, and there may not necessarily be room in the school or major that you want to switch in. So I would encourage everyone to just try and pick the school they want to be in the most. Unfortunately, if that is not in line with the civic semester, it's something to consider if you do feel really passionately about the civic semester, just something to consider ahead of time. But I just wanted to interject that quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And I do know that although engineers are not eligible for civic semester, there are global education study abroad programs. So engineers also do have great opportunities to go abroad. Nika would be a good one to answer this. Can you do a semester or year abroad as well as the civic semester?
Yes, you can. So one of the first questions that I asked when I got to Tufts was like, is there a limit on study abroads that you can do? Very passionate about studying abroad. The civic semester definitely set me off for that as well. But even to begin with, I was really excited to travel and kind of learn more by seeing and doing rather than reading maybe. But essentially I'm currently a sophomore. Usually people at Tufts, everybody at Tufts goes abroad, more or less. And they usually do it during their junior or senior year. It's popular to go abroad for an entire year or for a semester, and Tufts is known for having so many programs. So there's a lot of places you can go, a lot of things you can learn. But you can also go abroad in your sophomore year. Well, in a way. I feel like it's important to acknowledge like the course load that you're taking. That's definitely something I'm figuring out right now, but I will be going abroad this upcoming spring semester. And so I feel like almost every single person in the civic semester in my year is gonna end up going abroad again during their junior year. So it's definitely popular.
Yeah, I would say if anything, I think we see students wanting to do it again even more after the program. So yes, definitely possible. Obviously, students have to kind of plan out their courses and depending on their major, et cetera. But we see that happen a lot. Would Spanish placement tests affect my course load in Peru in any way? So students who are going to go to Peru, if they've taken Spanish before, they take a placement test in the summer, and that determines what course they're going to take over the summer before departure. So it will affect what course you're in over the summer. But it won't kind of, everyone's taking Spanish, just different levels. And same thing in Peru, your Spanish class will have multiple levels depending on where you're at. So I will say, as Nika mentioned, a lot of our students end up placing out of levels when they get back. So we really encourage folks to take the placement test again after the program, because many people find that they are able to kind of move up, which is nice. How selective is this program once you've been admitted? That changes every year. It's a hard question to answer. That's why we encourage folks to apply early, because we have the multiple rounds, and we consider applications on a rolling basis throughout the month of April, because some students who are admitted regular decision kind of want to be able to make their decision based on whether or not they're doing civic semester. So that's why we encourage folks to apply early. But our goal is to really offer this program to students that would be a good fit, that really are excited about the different pieces of the program, that feel like they're ready for the challenge, that really want to be a part of a cohort community. So we're really looking at fit when we're doing application review and interviews. And it's, we ask you in the application as well, whether you prefer Thailand or Peru or either program. So that's helpful too. And it just has depended year to year on kind of like where students are at in terms of preferences and locations and things like that. How will this program work, for example, if you were on a pre-med track? Will those prerequisites be able to be completed later in the year? So every year we've also had students who are pre-med. And yes, folks are often registering for like bio and some of those kinds of courses when they get back to campus. We even have had students who have applied to the Tufts Early Assurance, which just means you have to get some of those pre-med courses done earlier. So yes, I think this is definitely an option for folks who are pre-med. Tufts doesn't have a pre-med major, so you'd still be also doing kind of major requirements. But there is an office of pre-med advising that supports students who are pre-med in terms of thinking about what kind of requirements they want to make sure they're taking for med school applications. Will I get housing when I come back for my second semester, and will I get roomed with someone from the program? Anyone want to answer that one?
Sure. You will get housing. Don't worry. We don't know where. You don't know where until when Jessye, is there an exact time that you know? I kind of forget.
December, they usually send out second semester housing assignments.
Yeah, and the way it worked for us is that most of us were paired up with civic semester people, so we were in doubles with other people that we went with, but where really ranged. Some of us were in sophomore dorms, some of us were in more freshman dorms. Yeah, but most of us were paired, but I think that might change year by year. So, but you will get housing baseline.
There's an additional housing question here. Do you miss the sophomore housing lottery?
No, we did sophomore housing lottery.
It's in the spring, right?
Yeah, it's in the spring. So you're already back on campus and set for that.
Emma and Nika, how did it work with housing? Oh, when you got to campus. Same question. Lots of questions about housing. Makes sense. You are guaranteed housing on campus. Tufts is not a huge campus. So like you might be hearing, oh, sophomore housing, like that's just a different building next to another one. Like it's a relatively small campus. And I think, we've had over the years, there's been a lot of different iterations of spring housing. And sometimes, like Emma said, people are paired with people from the program. Other times they've been paired with other first years. And I think actually both have worked out really well. Sometimes people really like being with people not from the program because they get to make new friends. So it's often a point of concern for students, but I can just say honestly that the housing has generally worked out really well. Yeah, Nika.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that all of you will still be completing the housing form probably around not this time, usually in August, I think. So after you get in, you will be completing a form, and that's where you can indicate your preferences. I, for example, wanted to live in a women's dorm or a women's floor. So I indicated that on my application, and I actually ended up being placed in an all-women's housing, which was really nice. So your choices are still taken into consideration most of the time, even though you went abroad.
Thanks, Nika. Did you, Emma and Nika, know about the program prior to applying to Tufts?
I did not, which is surprising because I'm from Medford and Tufts is in my backyard. But yeah, it was kind of a very happy surprise when I think I had already been accepted, and then on my portal there was a little apply for civic semester, and then I learned a lot more about it through that, but I didn't know before applying.
I did. I'm not from Medford, but I did. I actually wrote something. I remember like half of my why Tufts essay was about the civic semester. So I was pretty knowledgeable about the program. Again, it wasn't, when I was applying, it wasn't something you were committing to. So I kind of had the flexibility to then choose. But it was definitely something I had in mind. Like it was part of why I chose Tufts.
And that leads well into the next question, which is, do you have any words of advice for anyone looking into applying to the program?
I think one of the things that I mentioned most is you make your own experience. And going in with the least amount of expectations is what usually works best for me. Especially if you're moving away from home to college, which is the case for most students. And I think the civic semester is definitely about community. And if you're a person who really kind of flourishes in a community, it's definitely something I would recommend. And just kind of like knowing that you can make your own experience. Like I took up so many new hobbies in Peru just because I could. Like there's a lot of flexibility with it, and as long as you want to do something and as long as you put your mind to it, I feel like you can definitely shape your own experience essentially.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think just really reflect on yourself and your own values and then how they can best match up with Civic Semester and what you really want to get out of it, what you think you bring to the table, and just assess and talk about and explore what you think this experience might mean, try and visualize it, but also not really hold very many expectations, like Nika said, because it really is what you make it, and some things might be thrown at you and you'll learn to deal with it. And other things you might be able to build on your own. And it's just really about kind of reflecting about what you believe and what you think is going to be the best for you.
Thank you both. I got a question. Why would someone choose one location over another? Yeah, I mean, I think the most common reason I think people have chosen Peru is for Spanish. We get a lot of students who've been taking Spanish through high school and they really want an opportunity to practice more. But I think outside of language, like this year, we got a lot of students in Thailand who have never taken Spanish and wanted to go somewhere where English is very common, where they can use that a lot at their placements. They are still taking Thai. We think it's really important to have some basic language skills to show, respect in a new culture. But that language is definitely a big piece. I think another is just like part of the world and maybe what you're interested in seeing and doing, some of those themes I talked about earlier, and if there's a certain kind of area that you're most interested in learning about from a community organization perspective. Peru, like Urubamba is like a small city and you're kind of in that city throughout. Whereas Thailand, you're in the first part when you're doing group living, you're in Chiang Mai, which is a pretty big city. And then you're in a much like pretty rural area right outside of the city for homestays. So that's another piece, whether people want that kind of like larger city, more rural juxtaposition or kind of in one larger town the whole time. So there's kind of pieces like that throughout that I encourage people to think about. But we actually got a lot of applicants last year who checked either on their application. And that is not a bad thing. Like that, no one, it's not good or bad to kind of have a very strong preference or not. So I think it's great to see students that are open to either if that's really something that is true for you. Are there any similar civic engagement opportunities for the School of Engineering? I do not work in the School of Engineering, so I don't know a ton about it. I know there's a group called Engineers Without Borders that is a part of Tisch College. And so that's a really popular student club. And I think an opportunity for engineers who are interested in doing some of that civic engagement, international stuff. So, I feel like at Tufts, there's probably other opportunities too that I'm just maybe less familiar with. Do you think, oh, this is for you too. Do you think you changed at all after this program?
Yes, definitely. I just want to follow up on Jess's questions. I feel like there's so many opportunities at Tufts, both in like to travel internationally while doing civic engagement and here at Tufts. Definitely through the civic college for the Tisch College, but also just the clubs here at Tufts. I personally work for the Initiative for Global Leadership. There's so many opportunities, and a lot of them don't have any requirements in terms of you have to be an arts and sciences or engineer. So there's definitely a lot of them. And I feel like I definitely have changed simply because I was thrown into a completely different space with completely new people, and I just had to learn how to handle it. And it's, you definitely have like an entire support system. You're not going to be alone, but it also lets you discover so many things about yourself, and you have a lot of time for reflection, which is something that you probably don't do normally on your daily basis. But I feel like a lot of people, when they come back, they start implementing those like daily practices like journaling, and just overall being mindful about your actions and in general the way that you feel and the experiences that you have. So I feel like it's definitely the kind of experience that you look back and you're like, I felt completely different when I was there.
Yeah, it's you really see sides of yourself that you have never seen before, and you build sides of yourself that you maybe never would have had. And so, like looking back at that time, even just from now, and it's been a year, which is absolutely insane, but it feels like I can still imagine kind of being that person walking the streets of Urubamba. And I take with me like daily all of the things that I learned. And Nika's right, like I did start journaling, and I do a lot of the practices and reflections that the civic semester gave me the time and space to develop. And so it really, even though it felt like I was a completely different person while I was there, I still carry with me a lot of what I learned into life back on campus and life back in the United States.
So nice. Is there any possibility of adding more destinations for civic semester? Yeah, not for fall 25, but sure, we'd love that in the future. As I mentioned, this, right now is our first year with Thailand. We also, in the past, had a semester in the southwestern US. So definitely that is a possibility for the future. What majors are Nika and Emma pursuing?
I'm double majoring in international relations, very popular at Tufts, and women's and gender studies.
I am definitely biopsych, and then I'm debating between a double in either child studies or community health.
Without the civic semester, how early can a student typically place into a study abroad program at their time at Tufts? So, the most common, by far the majority of Tufts students study abroad at some point during their junior year. The earliest I have heard of a student studying abroad outside of civic semester is sophomore year. But I think that's, again, relatively rare and really depends on like your major and kind of where you're at in that major process and et cetera. But yeah, I would say, generally our students are the only first year students that are going abroad through a Tufts program during the academic year. There are some summer programs that students do after their first year as well. Okay, so these kind of go together for you two. Was it hard to assimilate when coming back to campus, and were you able to make friends? And then what percentage of your current friends are from civic semester versus on-campus classes, activities, et cetera?
A percentage is hard to say. But what I really valued coming back was that I was still in touch with a lot of the people I met in Prio. And I did Focus, which is part of Tisch College. And so, which is another shout out to Tisch. They're just amazing. But I did Focus as a Prio, and coming back and being able to still be in touch with them, and they've been there for a semester, so they also show you to all their friends, and they show you what they're interested in, all the different clubs and classes that they're taking. And so the Prio, I think, was for me what really helped kind of come back onto campus life, but also just in classes and trying different clubs, you just naturally run into people and meet people. I would say honestly, my closest friends are still in civic semester, just because we went through that together, and it's experience that no one understands really. And we became like family during those 3 months. But that doesn't mean that I don't have very valuable friendships with people on campus, and I don't like feel held back by my time at civic semester, because it's just a solid base to grow from. I view it as.
Yeah, my experience was a bit different, and I feel like it also a lot of people who do make friends during their pre-O, the friend groups usually break up at some point during the year. Not all of them, but I know I've heard about this being common. I did the global orientation, so I did go. I wouldn't say I kept necessarily in touch with them. Some of them, of course, but I think I was so psyched to be back on campus. And again, the Tufts campus is the kind of campus that has so many opportunities, and all you need to do is be on the e-list and check your email. So I would literally go to every event that I was interested in, every club that I was interested in, and that's kind of how I started to meet new people. I feel like Tisch in general, but Tufts as well, overall, they really do attract the kind of people that you will definitely resonate with. We have all kinds of communities. And I feel like one of the most common things that I hear about Tufts is about the people that they attract. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. As long as you put in some sort of effort, you'll definitely find your people.
Thank you both. Just wanted to clarify, in Thailand, do the students learn Thai and speak it or use mostly English? So I think it's an unrealistic goal that students could fluently speak Thai just from in-person classes. It's a whole different alphabet. It's a hard language to learn. We do think it's really important to learn, and there are many host families who do not speak English. So yes, they will be using Thai even more when they move to their host families. They are using some phrases and things they're learning around the city now. But as a cohort, they're speaking English, and generally at their placements, English is also often common in Northern Thailand in general. We are very lucky that, English is commonly used. So one of our many considerations when choosing a location is like, either is this a place that a lot of students have studied the language, or a place where a lot of people do speak English, because we want you to be able to communicate. But yeah, so it's a combination is the bottom line. But I know students have been really enjoying their language classes and are learning a lot. And like Nika and Emma also mentioned, like we have students going to Peru too who've never spoken Spanish and are living with Spanish speaking host families. So that's not new in terms of being in a new place and, living with a family where you may not have a common language. But I think students are often surprised how much you can kind of get by through gesturing and using Google Translate and really just like practicing daily. And yeah, so long answer to a short question, but yes, students are both learning Thai, but also mostly speaking English as a group. And the last question I'm seeing here is for you two. Can you elaborate more on the Native community that you met abroad and how that's impacted you?
I can talk about this so much, but before I get into that, I really wanted to say that one unique thing about the civic semester is that a lot of the locations that they offer, Peru, Thailand, are not the kinds of locations that you're gonna find in the other study abroad programs, specifically the ones that are affiliated with Tufts, because obviously you can pursue an external program, even though that's a bit more complicated in terms of classes and everything. Really I wouldn't have been able to go to Peru any other way besides with the civic semester, and that same thing goes for Thailand. And in terms of the Native communities, I came from a place where the term indigenous wasn't used. I've never heard of it, rather than on college applications when you have to check those boxes. So I was very unfamiliar with it, but I was really grateful because the classes that you take during the summer and also in the location where you're in really help prepare you both like with knowledge, but also with the approaches that you're supposed to have when going to these communities. It's really a lot about deconstructing the way that we think about things, and it's about unlearning and relearning in a way the many things that you've kind of heard about or have actually studied before, but not necessarily with the right approaches. And I think that's why like the courses are really, really valuable, because you will be put into your comfort zone, and that's supposed to make you think and really analyze. And I think that's really one of the things that make this program unique.
Yes, I agree with everything that Nika said. It's really the classes and just being there and being in the context as a foreigner traveling there and living there, you really have to reflect a lot, and the classes and the structure of being in our community and being in their community, we really had to have a lot of conversations about what that would look like, how we present ourselves, how we act, and kind of actively thinking about it and then being able to connect it back to the histories within Latin America with our class, Latin American Civilizations, being able to just kind of really analyze the whole situation in context and then pair that with what we were doing there. And just, yeah, like Nika said, unlearning, relearning, and trying to take as many values away as we could while still being mindful and respectful.
Thank you both. I want to thank everyone for all of your amazing questions and for being here. I'm putting in the chat. This is our email, our Instagram, our blog. So please check those out. Feel free to email that address and I will get it. If you have more questions, for our alumni, I'd be happy to connect you. So just reach out anytime. And thank you all so much.
Thank you all so much for joining tonight, and thank you all from Tisch College and from the Civic Semester for sharing your wonderful experiences. We have a lot more Fall for Tufts programming for you all to check out on the undergraduate admissions website. So do feel free to look through and see if there's anything else you're interested in. We would love for you to join. And thank you all so much for your participation and for tuning in tonight. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, Meredith.